Dexter. Welcome to the Creative Kind podcast. So you're one of the last few guests wrapping up season 2. It's all about people who work in the entertainment sector. Obviously, you're an excellent choice because of everything that you do. We were talking recently about your the new label, and I know you've been involved in the music scene for many years, from Australia to Montreal, where you now call that home. So just kind of give my listeners a bit of an introduction into the world of Dexter Crowe. Did I say that right? Is it Crowe or Crowe?
No, Crowe, you got it right. Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, an introduction to the world of me. Well, I mean, so I'm from Australia and made my way to Montreal to live probably about 5 years ago, and kind of inadvertently came into working in music through how I met you through Concordia Radio, with a late night show there. And yeah, that was kind of that was into the community here, hosting radio shows, inviting guests on and stuff. And then through there, you kind of meet the community, go out to more events, meet some people. And then I started working more seriously in radio, and working for an electronic music blog based out of Montreal here, called When We Dip. And yeah, started making music, started DJing more, and then suddenly it was something that I was doing full time. I ended up dropping out of Concordia to dive full into it. And since then, that's kind of been the full-time thing. As of late 2019, as you mentioned, we started a new label with a partner of mine. His name's Mercan. He's a Turkish artist. So that's kind of been the focus for the last little while, focusing on creating multimedia contents rather than just music. So all of our releases so far and into the future will be releases with visual content. So either with a moving image or a film in some way, trying to create meaningful contents and bringing together different cultures, different influences, different sounds, and most importantly, different creative disciplines to create kind of a multimedia collective rather than a record label. So that's kind of a brief intro to what's been going on.
Oh, very cool. And there's a lot I want to dive into here, but most recently, let's talk a bit about this whole idea of putting out content that has complementary videos for it, and that being say a multimedia powerhouse as opposed to just say a record house or a label. Why do you think that you and your partner, what was his name again?
His name is Mercan Didi.
Mercan, okay. Yeah. So why do you think you and your partner Mercan thought that this was why did you want to go this approach? Because that's more work, right? For sure, right out of the gate. So yeah, what was the thought process behind taking on an approach where everything needs that complementary assets?
Yeah, I think definitely, as you say, it creates more work. I think that's been something that has kind of slowed down the pace of releases. But at the same time, the main reason for doing that is because I feel that, I'm sure we can all agree that we are going more and more into a visual world, multimedia world, where, the music is always going to have its value and power, but, being able to match it with beautiful, meaningful visual content really, I think, helps one to kind of create a further reach. Also, you add a new dimension of creative outputs, and also of meaning. I feel in creating a full audiovisual experience. And the other side of that for us is it kind of opens up another avenue for collaboration, and starting to build the foundation of the collective. So, for example, each of our releases so far, the first one was called Cappadocia, and it was Mercan going through, flying over Cappadocia in a hot air balloon, playing a live set from the hot air balloon. And the second one, we did something with, I re-edited I chopped together all of some best bits from Charlie Chaplin's public domain work, and created like a new thing out of that. And the third release was, we collaborated with a good friend of ours here in Montreal, who works in video production, and they also do a lot of work in marine conservation. So we collaborated with them and used a lot of the footage from one of their recent planks and exhibitions that they toured around the world. And then through that, we were able to partner with or associate ourselves with a really amazing organization here in Quebec that do like educational exploration trips up the St. Lawrence River.
Oh, that's cool.
And then our most recent release, we did in collaboration with this really amazing Turkish artist who does marbling art, which I don't know if you're familiar with marbling art, but it's this really magical form of art. It's an ancient form of art where essentially it's like a liquid basin with like ox skull, which creates a certain consistency in the liquid that the colors don't mix. So you can paint with colors on like a liquid surface. And this artist, he does these really incredible pieces where he'll do that, but with contemporary paintings. And the one that we did was with Edvard Munch's Scream piece, that really iconic piece of the screaming figure on the boardwalk. So just in those, it's kind of, I think, opened up. It's opened up another layer to the work, and also opened up exposure for the music to those artists, also to our artists, and being able to kind of attach more meaning, I suppose, to the art and not necessarily just the music. So that was the main kind of motivation. Yeah, I think that, without something for people to look at, I think Spotify and streaming and all those things are going to be there, but there is more and more, I think, an interest and a demand really for people to see something. You think about like with even vinyl records, like when you would get a vinyl and you'd have an artwork, you would have the texture of the cover, all that stuff, like just that experience before you've even listened to the music or while you're listening to the music brings so much more to your experience of the music and also your connection to the artist. So I feel like music videos and online content like that is kind of a new form of that, being able to add more to the things that you're creating and share more of yourself and your community with your audience.
Yeah, totally. I know it's cool. I like the idea, and I guess like the clearest example that comes to my mind in a similar approach most recently, and it's something that I've just started listening to a lot more, is Gorilla's latest album. Have you heard that album? What is it called?
When did it come out?
2020. Okay, it's called like Season 1, Sound Machine Season 1, Strange Times.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
Okay.
But for every single song that's on that album, they put out a piece of video content, and they almost made it like a vlog style, where like you have the like iconic, like gorillas, like their iconic little 4 animation figures who are interacting in a studio in London with like all the artists who are being featured on the album and all of these songs as they're recording. And then so that's some of the videos, and then some are like more, like full-fledged animated music videos and things like this. But it was a cool way that like once a week they were releasing these like video songs, like episode 8, episode 7, and there was all these artists working on these new songs that were all part of this album. And, they've labeled it Season 1. So who knows where they're going to take this idea. But it was super cool. I would definitely recommend checking that out for inspiration.
I would definitely check it out. I mean, the gorillas are a cool example, man. I mean, like you don't even know what they look like, but those animated characters and all the content they put out is so them that it adds like a whole other layer to their art. That the gorillas you associate also with that animated style and the kind of world that they inhabit. So yeah, they're definitely very inspirational. I'll for sure catch the album once we get off the call, I'll jump on it.
Yeah, I'll send you a few of my favorite tracks from that album. There's a few that I've had on repeat, but honestly, the whole album is great. The other direction that this conversation's taking my brain is the recent interest in NFTs.
Yeah,
and it's something that I kind of thinking about dabbling in with there's some startup. There's an entrepreneurs here. They have their own social media app that they use gem as currency and. There's actually podcasts. They've been on the podcast. I'm not going to get too deep because I want to keep it kind of broad strokes. But how NFTs are a way that you can have, value in digital artwork, right?
totally.
So it's not only are you buying the song now, say from your Bandcamp, but you're also buying the song and it comes with this music video and it comes with this GIF and you get maybe the first cut of the music video or whatever it is, right? So there's some sort of exclusivity to this. Has that been something that you and Mercan have thought about dabbling in?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the NFT thing is a going to be a big change, and I think to participate in it and learn as much as possible is definitely something that, as creators, I think we would all benefit from doing. I think we're going to need to do, and so pairing the content or releasing content in that you have bonus visual content that comes with it is definitely something that we're looking into and excited about doing. But I think NFTs are a good example about the visual aspect of things, like how graphic art now, people being able to see something and share it is definitely. I feel like it's exhibited in this kind of big wave of the NFT kind of bubble. So I definitely think it's something that we'll be looking further into and implementing in our approach for sure.
Yeah, no, it's cool, and it sounds like you guys are kind of on the right path. You got a lot of interesting projects. What's coming up? What are your next releases going to look like?
Well, we are right now just finishing up what will be the first release from a new project that we're starting together, the two of us, which is a collaboration with a few of the musicians that Mercan has worked with in his career so far. We have another project coming up actually with the same guys we did the one from the Plankton project, but this one will be on whales and partnering with some of the organizations that are doing whale research around the world that they're affiliated with, and we'll be collaborating also with a musician who hopefully is going to be able to respond to the whale calls in a musical way and create a foundation for a song to come out of that. And we've got a lot of exciting projects that we won't give away too much on, but a lot of the focus I think will be in this new project that we're developing and bringing in more and more performers and collaborators and artists, as I say, from different creative disciplines for multimedia stuff.
Very cool. And so talk to me about this whale project, because that sounds pretty interesting. So are you using ultrasonic sonar or whatever, however they communicate whales, and you're recording whales sirens and these sonar calls that these mating calls and things like this, and then you're mixing that in with into music essentially? Is that the idea here?
Well, so the idea, I mean, we obviously are not doing the recordings ourselves personally, like me and Mercan, but
you're working with a research boat or something.
Yeah, well, so we're kind of pulling together content from a variety of divers and researchers from different parts of the world that our friend is connected to. And then the idea is I'm not sure if you've heard, I'm sure you have heard those, unbelievable whale songs, and they are really songs. And there's something that for example, I don't know if you've heard a cello play it in a specific way, but they can really mimic that sound and that feeling. I mean, lots of instruments can, but there's something about being able to respond to this musical call of this animal that is so important to our ecosystem, being able to respond to it musically, and take visual imagery of them in their natural habitat, and then also what they sound like and how they talk to each other and how they express their culture, which at the end is what that is. The idea is to kind of take that and respond to it in a way, and then showcase it through music and a video. So, and then as much as possible, raise some awareness. I'm sure everyone's aware of how beautiful whales are, but when you see it and when you hear it, I feel like it enables a connection and an empathy that I think we could all, we need as much as we can possibly get these days. So that's the main idea. Yeah.
That's really cool. I look forward to hearing that project. And so, like, referring to that one and referring to the one you mentioned where you're you're talking about going on the Saint Laurent, here more locally within Quebec. It seems that, like, reconnecting with like nature, that has that kind, there's like an underlying theme, or there's it's not maybe in every single release, but that seems to be kind of integral into your creative process. Would you say that's something that you kind of try to demonstrate through your work?
Yeah, I think as much as possible, we want everything that we do to have some to be within, like, with a consciousness for everything that's kind of going on in the world at the moment, and as much as possible, raise awareness for, support, encourage, and also just showcase people who are doing amazing things, or things that are we are worth protecting. And yeah, I guess the creative process is something that is fueled by something. And I think for us, we really believe that art and music have a tremendous power to shape the way we see the world and who we are. So I think as much as possible, we want to try and showcase that and be that in our art, reflect that in our art.
Yeah, no, that's really cool, and I think it's really valuable as well, and something that I think maybe some artists can lose sight of, right? Yeah, and so I wanted to ask about coming back to some of this origin story about how we met, because it's funny, actually. I was thinking about this. I don't think we've ever really. I think we've like met a few times in person, and those few times in person, they were. I feel like they were always at like a rave or something. Do you know what I mean? It was like I'd see them at a show, but like we had never actually like really got the chance to like connect deeper. But I don't know. Like I feel like it must have been like I feel like we met at Picnic maybe once or twice.
Yep. Yeah. I definitely remember us hanging out briefly around the radio station. And you were doing a similar type of electronic music podcast at the station as well at the time, I think, right?
Yeah. Although, like, it's interesting, right? When we talk about radio, and from my time at CJLO, then kind of after leaving Montreal, coming back home to London, I missed that presence. I missed the presence of being involved in campus radio. And it was one of the first things I did. I did an art show here. And that's another thing I want to ask you about. And anyway, so then I, asked around, and, I had an interview just like with Fanshawe, like Fanshaw's local station. And I was speaking with them, and I was like, I was speaking with the woman at the admin booth to figure out where I was going. And I was talking because she's like, "Oh, why are you here?" Right? And I was like, "Well, I'm involved in student radio. I'd love to get involved, but I don't think I can." She's like, "Oh, why don't you check out Radio Western?" And I was like, "I didn't even know about Radio Western." Everyone, 106.9 after 8. It's when they play electronic music. That's typically what I would listen to. Radio Western didn't really have a strong. They weren't really strong known in the community yet. So that's what I did at Western, very much a derivative off my show. Instead of the darker side of campus, I did the dark side of Western.
That's it. That's it. I remember. Yes.
And that way I could use a lot of my same samples of being like the dark side. And like it was okay, like I could get away with that. Right, it was still, I wasn't done telling the dark side story. So that was cool. But like, yeah, so campus radio, like, would you say that has had a big influence on like, who you are and your kind of career trajectory now?
Dude, I think that started everything. I think that if it wasn't for that, I'd probably be somewhere very different. I remember, man, it was like after a week after arriving in Canada, going to Concordia, because I knew that like I wanted to learn to DJ and be involved more with music, but it was more just like out of interest. And I remember someone in orientation week being like, "Oh yeah, and we have a radio station." I was like, "Radio station? All right, that sounds cool. Let me check that out." So I remember going to meet the guys there, and they were all like so, they were just cool people, and they were so encouraging. They were so creative, and they were just stoked that you were interested in starting a radio show. So they kind of show you the ropes, and everyone's doing their own unique thing, and that was very inspiring for me. And then I remember having like my show was at midnight, from midnight to 2. And yeah, this is probably, I probably saw you at some raves after that, because like I would play from like midnight to 2, and every week I would invite one guest on from the Montreal scene. So I think that without that, it's one thing. I feel like it's one thing to meet people at raves and in the community and stuff, but then when you have something that you can offer to people, like coming onto your show, and you can, after the show you hang out and you exchange music and you exchange perspectives, all that stuff. I feel like that experience really kind of created a doorway for me to, to connect with the community. Also for me to dig music every week, because I'm sure you resonate with that. Every week coming up with a radio show, you want it to be as best as you can, as it can be. So oftentimes I was spending more time digging music than I was studying, which I think that experience, on the whole, definitely was something that shaped my journey, and I guess were the key stepping stones to giving me the opportunities to do what I'm doing now, really. And also, to experience diving so deep into it and just loving it, loving doing it so much that you're like, wow, man, this is amazing. This is something I want to do more of.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I remember listening to your sets, like the techno sets, like studying that you played. You had some awesome guests that came on. And so that's cool that's kind of that was part of your Genesis story. And it was something else that I wanted to bring up earlier, which was when we talk about Montreal, and you talked about how your label, it's very much like multimedia. To me, things that are multimedia are like, that's like Montreal. Like I remember going to like art shows in Montreal, but there's like a DJ, but then it's also like a bar. And it's like, is this like a club? Is this like, a show? Is it an art gallery? Is it a live performance? Like there'd be an intermission, like dance or something. Like that to me is very Montreal-esque. Do you feel that like that kind of very mixed style of just all arts and media and music coming together, that's had, like, Montreal itself has had a major influence on you and your creative process?
I definitely. Yeah, like I feel that Montreal is a very unique place in that, there's a lot going on here artistically, considering the size of the city. It's not like I feel like the art and music and theater and live show scene in Montreal generally is very vibrant. And there are, lots of different subcultures, but each of those subcultures is very vibrant. People are really doing their thing here. And I feel like coming here and seeing all that mix of, firstly, art in the street, there's like so much art in the street. As you say, like in the summer and often in the winter too, there are exhibitions going on everywhere. There are events going on everywhere. There's festivals. There's all the free festivals that happen in the summer as well. So I definitely feel like, being exposed to, and kind of being around all of those different kind of creative people, creative expression throughout the city, and diving into that, I feel like definitely had a big inspiring influence on me. Montreal, I feel, has so much energy, for a city of its size. So I definitely feel like that was one thing that attracted me here in the first place, and definitely something that has kept me here and kept me inspired, for sure. And another reason for that, another thing on that is like, being exposed to more of that, and then starting to meet people in Montreal who are doing different things, and many of whom come from different parts of the world. I think inspired a lot of the motivation to start, a multimedia collective where you can kind of bring together people who work in those different kinds of creative disciplines that are doing amazing stuff in Montreal, and find ways that we can kind of amplify each other's skills and creativity and uniqueness. I definitely feel like Montreal has been like that for me, for sure. What about for you? Did you feel that way too?
Yeah, totally. I think Montreal had a very strong influence on my creative process.
Yeah.
I feel that every place I've lived, even for short periods of time, has always kind of helped shape your thoughts and the way that you see the world, right? Like it just kind of helps you open up your perspective and to be more caring, more understanding of other people's and their backgrounds and their lived experiences. And just Montreal was a very inspiring place. I do definitely miss it. But I don't, you probably don't know, I mean, not many people know this, but I'll be moving to Toronto actually June 1st.
No way.
Yeah, a bit more reasonable to reach to. So if you're ever in town, just you know who to give a shout to.
Dude, definitely will. I definitely will.
Okay, sweet. So yeah, kind of coming close to wrapping things up here. A few final questions that I wanted to ask you. First, where can people connect with you, Dexter? Where can they connect with your label, your multimedia, label? What is the name? I don't even think we've name dropped it yet.
The name's Halaken Collective.
Halaken, okay.
Halaken Collective, yeah.
And how do you spell that?
Halaken is Halaken Collective. And we're on Spotify and Instagram and Facebook and SoundCloud. And the same from my personal stuff is just my name, Dexter Crowe, on all those platforms as well.
Sweet. And was there anything that we haven't spoken about yet that was something that you were kind of thinking of in prep of this podcast that you wanted to still chat about?
Yeah, not really. I mean, I guess one thing that's been on my mind for a while has been, I guess this whole COVID period and how it's influenced my own creative process, also your relationship with the community, and as you say, that environment that inspires you, going through this period and it not being there as much, and seeing people how they're keeping the fire alive in their own way, and how, if anything, more and more people are creating art and creating music with all this time on their hands, also with changing priorities in their life, where it feels like everyone that I've spoken to, myself included, I don't know about you, is going through some kind of major transformation in their life in this period. Like major transformation. And I feel like one really beautiful thing has been to see how many people have become more or spending more time creating or learning something new, and also I feel like realizing how we take for granted that environment and that community and that richness of culture that you're exposed to in normal times, when not everyone is stuck in their home 24/7, everything is closed. So I feel like we're definitely in this interesting period where it's kind of like a pressure cooker. Everyone's kind of in their own thing, going through their own transformation, and I feel like kind of spending more time with themselves. And then it's cool to see how many people are expressing that in their own individual way. That's something I'm really excited for, is to see how, things start to bloom again and come back again, as hopefully things start to open up over the next year or years, whatever it is. But that's definitely been something that's been interesting. Even observing myself, like just spending, because like you say, man, we spend a lot of time, the few times that we got to hang out at raves, and so many people that I consider,
yeah,
like you don't get to see those people as much. And it's not, I feel like everyone has gone through this in some way, that it's not like your love for that people or that community is any less. It's just, you have some like finite energy these days, and so I'm interested and excited to see how everyone bounces back and bounces out, back into the community, back into the environment after all this. Like, how do you feel like it's influenced you and affected you? How are you doing through all of it?
yeah. No, it's just on the comments about bouncing back out. There's like all these memes that it's like, man, we're about to live through another roaring 20s once we get this pandemic under
Dude,
control.
it's gonna be wild, man.
Yeah, maybe if climate change doesn't, I think that's the thing that everyone's just kind of like, yeah, COVID's the only thing we got to worry about right now. It's like, but I mean, I know you're on that wave from what we talked about. But yeah, so no, I feel that COVID has given me, like, I'm a very extroverted person, but I also very much enjoy my time, like, to myself.
Yeah.
To just be productive, right? And I think it's good to have a balance. Obviously, that balance is very much leaned into the one way. And from how I've just reflected on that and spoken with other people, I think you can sulk about it. I think some people, not a lot, but I think some people do, sulk, or they'll, for whatever reason, they can very much get trapped in a sense of like self-pity, or, they feel bad for themselves because they can't see people. But I think the flip side of that is to be like, okay, like, yeah, I can't see people, I can't do anything. Like Ontario just went into a third lockdown. We're in the third wave. We just went into a 4-week lockdown, right? And so just using that time and, channeling that energy that you normally would use with friends, and channeling it into things that you're passionate about. I mean, for me, that the actualization of that has been the podcast, where like, had I not done this, who knows when I would have spoken to you again, right? But here we are. And there's some serenity in the fact that we just had like a half an hour conversation about life and creativity and the arts and music, you know what I mean? And like, that's amazing that I can reconnect with you, Dexter, after all these years, and pick things back up and share more about your platform, right? Share what you're doing with my listeners so that we can create this cross community. And so like, to me, the podcast is a way that it's something I always wanted to do. I did a ton of research before, and I knew I was even going to start it pre-COVID. COVID was just somewhat of a catalyst for me to be like, well, shit, business is slowing down. You know what? Like, let's go all in. Let's really take this bad boy by the reins, right? So that to me has been kind of how I've, tried to actualize somewhat what other people may have considered like, a suppression of creativity. I've tried to, flip that on its head and use this as a way to really blossom in some of those ventures that I have been meaning to get around to.
Man, that's so cool. And that's the thing. I feel like I know a few people, more than a few people that are like that too, where this thing has been a catalyst for them in their life, where there's been something they wanted to do, or were like, really wanting to do, but for whatever reason, there were too many things going on, or this, that, and the other thing. And then this kind of thing just puts a spanner in the gears. And, I think it's been a catalyst for, lots of people's creative blossoming in different ways. Obviously, it's, and I feel like, man, at the end of the day, oftentimes the most beautiful art comes through some form of processing and then expressing your suffering and your discomfort and your difficulties, and I guess we've all kind of been pushed through that in a way. But I guess that's the thing also with the climate change thing, is like, there's every reason to be pessimistic about the situation, but I also feel that that's kind of catalyst for people diving more into their creative side, their own innate artistry, which we all have. I really believe that those things can be a catalyst for the type of paradigm consciousness shift that we need as a species in order to realign our priorities in a way that is going to address this issue. Whether or not we're going to do it fast enough is a whole other thing. But I feel like as long as you say, man, we reach out to, and we keep creating, and we try as much as possible to inspire the people around us to doing that, to be more themselves, more their creative selves. That I think the kind of change that we need to see will come from that. So yeah, man, I'm very grateful for you doing your podcast and reaching out and connecting with all your super cool creative friends. Yeah, man, really, really cool. Big respect.
Thank you, Dexter. I appreciate that. And so last question here. What does creativity mean to you?
What does creativity mean to me? I feel like creativity at its essence seems to be making something beautiful, or just creating something out of otherwise unrelated things. Like being able to say something, being able to express something out of things that exist in the world around you that otherwise, prior to your interaction with them or your being with them, is unrelated. So yeah, I feel like creativity is something also that will mean different things for different people, even at different times in their life. But there seems to be something about human interaction with otherwise completely unrelated, meaningless things, and being able to bring them together in a meaningful way that expresses something. I guess for me that's creativity in a nutshell. But we could speak for days about what creativity means, right? Yeah. What does creativity mean to you?
Yeah, I think creativity is like the essence of creating like new ideas and bringing something to life from your lived experience and from what inspires you.
Yeah. Really cool. Like that's something I find is whatever magic is, that has to be magic, right? That someone who's gone through whatever they've gone through in their life can come to a moment where they're presented with certain things or certain opportunities, whatever, and purely through them being them and interacting with that, something new is born, a new idea or a new thing or something that expresses them and their journey in some abstract artistic way. It doesn't even necessarily need to be artistic. Like you can have a creative businessman that is somehow able to creatively pull together strings and pull together ideas that create something new. That's a very magical concept, I feel.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dexter, for coming on the Creative Kind podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you again, man.
Yes, Alex. Thank you so much, man.
Cheers.
Cheers.